Ladies and gentlemen, we do thank you very much for your attention, and now we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the
Welcome to our top travel destinations. I am your host, Kevin Flanagan. I have been editor of the weekly travel news column in the Sunday Independent and the Fine Wine and Food Guide, and I am here to use my decades of experience to help you know exactly where to stay, eat, drink, shop, and explore when visiting the world's top travel destinations. So sit back and enjoy the wonders of travel as we take off on our magical journey together. Welcome to this episode of Kevin Flanagan's Top Travel Destinations, and this week I have a real treat in store for you. I'm going to try to take you by the hand and give you the actual feel, smell, taste of one of the greatest places I've ever visited, which is Lake Garda. This incredible Italian masterpiece created by the planet Earth, just where the Alps meets the waters of this fabulous lake, the deepest and the biggest lake in Europe, I believe. And there's something about the positioning of Lake Garda that it's incredibly accessible. You can get to Lake Garda through Milan or Venice or Verona. So it's great for international travelers because you can arrive at any of those airports and it's a couple of hours in the coach at the most. It's a very ancient place, formed from the Neolithic times, this extraordinary creation that the glaciers made this incredible natural wonder. And I have to say that it is the most comforting place I think I've ever been in, because all the time you have this backdrop of the Alps and then the river flowing into this incredible lake. And the lake is alive with every sort of boat, ship, pedalo, windsurfer. There's a constant going to and fro upon its surface that is endlessly fascinating. It's also incredibly historic. There's extraordinary towns and villages which seem to have been taken out straight out of central casting. The looks of some of these places, medieval fortress town of Simone, for example, the harbour of Malsacene, Riva del Garda, which I visited several occasions, which has this incredible medieval centre. And you've got Garda itself, which is a place where I would strongly suggest visit, hire a boat. Myself and the family hired a boat for an hour. I think it was $100. And we went right out into the middle of the lake, jumped off into the beautiful clear waters and clambered on board and went back for some pizza. You can't beat it. But my own special dear place was a town called Limone. It's on the western shore of Lake Garda, and it's very famous because all of the gardens of the small little holdings that the locals have lemon groves. So as you walk about your business in this very small, compact, medieval town, you smell, in the right season, this fragrance of lemons, fresh lemons. You can almost reach up and pluck them off the tree. The beauty, the waterfront cafes. I've never really spent a more pleasurable time in such historic backgrounds that are, it's like walking in the 16th century. You really get a sense that time has stood still. And of course, because you have this ever-present lake, which is very clean because of the way that the tides flow through it, you have everything. Windsurfing. We went pedaloing, myself and the two grandkids. You've got hikers going around. You've got cyclists. When you take a boat, which I would strongly recommend, to travel across the Great Lake, you will see people there with their bikes. They will see people there with their walking, their hiking boots and their walking sticks. You will see every sort of enthusiast, young and old. It really is a place that you can take great pleasure in activity. And then, of course, you have these extraordinary culinary delights. The fertile valley supplies bounty of local fruits. You've your olive oils, your citrus fruits like the aforementioned limone. You've a range of local wines. It's extraordinary that the Italian cuisine that you'll taste there is very often informed by local produce. And if it comes to meats and salamis, you really will be spoiled for choice. As for staying there, well, you have pretty much everything from high-end hotels, some of the best in the world, to a lowly pensione, and pretty much everything in between. In Limone, we were guests of the Hotel Splendid, 4-star hotel, which absolutely gave you everything you need. I remember having breakfast there with the kids. They loved that. Evening meal with the kids and eat out during the day. So you can get half board or just B&B. But the staff, the range of food, including local produce, wines, absolutely wonderful. But the best thing is when you open your bedroom window in the morning is this stunning, godlike scene of the mountains, the blue skies. It's very good sun record in that part of the world. And this lake, constantly alive with all sorts of activity. I have to say, I loved getting up there. So do definitely take a boat tour. There is every sort of boat tour available. My own favourite is the actual municipal boats. It's like the local bus or the Vaporetta in Venice. You go down, you pay your $3 or $4, and it goes around like a bus, dropping you off all around the lake. And you can just stay on it and take in the most majestic scenery I've ever seen. So there it is, a whole range of extraordinary activities, particularly if you're a kayaker, a cyclist. I could not get over how many rental shops were there. You can even get e-bikes now, which really are a useful option to consider if you're going with a family, if you're not necessarily that fit. It means that you can get about, and they have these dedicated routes where, because the traffic around the lake, which if you want to see, look at the James Bond film Quantum of Solace. The opening is shot in some of the tunnels around Lake Garda, and they're very narrow. In summer, they're very busy. They become snarled up. So if you have an e-bike, you can zip around on these dedicated cycling tracks, and that's really the way to see it. And then, of course, you've got a range of wine tasting trips, because Bardolino is one of the local wines, Lugano, and of course Valpolicella. And in Garda itself, we went to one of the local wineries and we had a 2-hour wine trip. I think it cost $18. And you really get to taste, to see, to meet the locals. And it's the most wonderful experience because the wine's of high quality. And if you go and you buy your wine in the supermarket, it's for a few dollars. A bottle of wine will cost the same as a glass of wine in a restaurant. So I would suggest explore the history of the lake. You've got Hollywood-style scenes that will feast your eyes, like the Scaligeri Castle in Simone, the Roman ruins of the grottos of Catullus, and the medieval town of Melzi has this extraordinary castle that's straight out of Game of Thrones. So Simone's a place to visit, as is Riva del Gardo. And finally, apart from Bardolino, which has these vineyards and olive groves, I would definitely suggest you visit Limone, my own favourite place, with the grandkids, this eastern shore of Lake Garda. So what's it like? I'd like to give you a flavour. There's going to be a fact sheet that accompanies this, which will give you all the links to places, because there is so much to see and do. It's a wealth of opportunities. But I'd like to just give you a flavour, my story of visiting Lake Garda and why I would really encourage you to visit Lake Garda. And I'm going to tell you what a typical day in Limone would feel like. We would start off with breakfast in the hotel, which the kids loved, very, very extensive breakfast. Then we have a swim. You can swim in the lake or you can swim in one of the hotel swimming pools. They're all absolutely wonderful. If you swim in the lake, be prepared for shock because it is cold water. We took out a pedalo in Lake Garda and we did dive in. You will take a sudden intake of breath, but it's very vigorous and you'll feel brilliant afterwards. And then you can sit on one of the lakeside cafes and have some of this extraordinary pasta, these local dishes with rabbit and seafood, of course, that will take the taste palates and explode them. So we would have our swim in Limone, and then we'd do what we really loved, just walk down the narrow paths past one of the old churches, which were decorated with these old frescoes, and walk into the town centre. And as you walked, you'd pass gardens filled with the groves of lemons, and you'd get that smell. And then I'd sit in the square of the fountain, one of the main squares in Limone. The kids would look at little bracelets that they were fascinated and be chased away by this rather fearsome woman, owner of the shop. And I'd just sit there and I'd look at the mountains, and I'd just see the lake and which boat was coming in, because a ferry boat would be coming, and this would then disgorge all of these tourists, and you'd hear, like Babylon, you'd hear all these wonderful accents from Greece and from England and from Australia and from Argentina, from China. It was a wonderful coming together of the people, and you could sit there and observe and enjoy all of this. And then we'd have a walk by the shore. Window shopping is extraordinary there. You have such great art shops. You have people that make pottery. You have design jewelers and, of course, leather goods in the region. A great present to take away. And then, of course, the church bells would sound. We'd go back very, very well replete with a gelato in our hand and have an evening meal, and then a final stroll. And the stroll in the evening would be with the sun on your back. And you would get the little breeze coming in off the river, and you'd smell the lime groves, and maybe you would have another sip. I may have a gin and tonic. The kids would maybe have a last ice cream, and there's tastes, because the Italian gelato is of a different class to most other ice creams that I have tasted. And just to hear the sun going down and feel the warmth and enjoy the coffee, the perfect sense of I'm alive. And I would really take that as the main pleasure visiting Lake Garda. I think there's a peace that settles because you're next to water. There's a majesty there because of these huge mountains that surround you. There's an incredible delight in this ever-changing canvas as the clouds come in and blow up a storm. We saw some incredible thunderstorms there, but then they pass on and the sun comes out and the birds, these multitude of different birds, fly over the lake and around the town. And then you've got the warmth as the sun heats you up, and the smell of a pizzeria or freshly ground coffee, and the taste of a lovely local wine. I personally could not think of a more relaxing week-long holiday than taking any of those gems that surround Lake Garda. But Limone will always stay dear to my heart and my grandkids' heart because it is an extraordinarily peaceful, fascinating, rich and diverse destination. So I would strongly encourage you to visit Lake Garda. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with one friend, because we want to share the wonder of this world and how you can go and spend time in places such as Lake Garda, which will warm your heart and make your imagination soar. Thank you for listening.